below the age of 18, I think it's perfectly legitimate to say that we won't allow genital mutilation or chemical castration through puberty blockers for the purpose of gender transition.
But how do you know it's that? Again, how do you know, are you confident that you know that gender is as binary as you're describing it? Are you confident that it isn't a spectrum?
I am.
Do you know this as a scientist?
Well, there's two X chromosomes if you're a woman, an X and a Y. That means you're a man.
There's a lot of scientific research out there. There's a lot of scientific research out there that says gender is a spectrum.
Chuck, I respectfully disagree. Gender dysphoria for most of our history, all the way through the DSM-5, has been characterized as a mental health disorder, and I don't think it's compassionate to affirm that. I think that's cruelty. When a kid is crying out for help, what they're asking for is, you got to ask the question of what else is going wrong at home? What else is going wrong at school? Let's be compassionate and get to the heart of that, rather than playing this game as though we're actually changing our medical understanding for the last 100 years. To this.
Ooh, what's up, everyone? It's Talk to Kenny here. Today we're going to be analyzing this debate with Chuck Todd and Vivek Ramaswamy. So as you guys know, Vivek Ramaswamy is one of my favorite authors. Like, I have two of his books, The Woke Inc. and Nation of Victims. And to me, he is, like, from an idealistic standpoint, he is my perfect candidate, because some of the things that I worry about, like affirmative action, wokeism, identity politics, he tackles these issues head on in his books, and I like his views on these things. And he solidified my understanding of why I don't like identity politics and this transgender movement that's been going on, is because I don't like feelings over facts. It's facts over feelings for a reason, right? And I think you can't fix a problem if you don't fully understand what the problem is. And it seems like a lot of our culturally appropriate way of handling the trans issue, the so-called systematic racism, is to give almost like a patch, right? You're only fixing the symptoms. You don't want to touch the root cause of these problems because you don't understand what the root cause of these problems actually are. And I like how he broke it down, and I don't like too much Chuck Todd. This is the first time I experienced him. Sorry, guys, I don't really watch much mainstream media nowadays, but he kept appealing to authority. Oh, what, are you a scientist? Who needs to be a scientist to know the difference between a man and a woman? Who knows? Like, bro, even a child can recognize the difference. This is why I stand on this statement. There's no such thing as a trans child. Trans children are created. This is something that happened naturally. This is why they have to introduce this concept to kids, right? And conservatives are making a bet. They say, hey, I bet you if we don't introduce these transgender theories or gender theories into classrooms, I bet you the rate of transgender kids, trans-identifying kids go down, right? But the left don't want to go that way because they know they'll be proven wrong. Like, hey, you guys are introducing these ideas, confusing our kids and causing these issues. I've been rambling a little bit too long, but this is one of the reasons I think, for me, Vivek's my sleeper pick. He's my dark horse. Like, I think it could be him and Trump, right? But, a lot of people still want Trump, but to me, this is he's my perfect candidate. Like, if he was a front runner, hey, I'm 100% behind him because I know what his thoughts are already. I know what he thinks about these theories already, and it aligns a lot with what I believe. So in this next clip, Vivek will go into more details about his thoughts, why he's such against the trans movement, wokeism as a whole, and why he believes his message is a unifying one. Let's take a look.
It's interesting. Your rhetoric can sound uniting, and your answer just now, but then you say the following things. The trans movement has become a cult. We need to abandon climate religion in America. I definitely find the idea of systemic racism revolting. I say this, how do you square those statements with unification? These are divisive times. This is a polarizing time. We're pretty evenly divided on these cultural issues. How do you unite the country when you're essentially denigrating the views of half the country?
I don't think I'm denigrating the views of half the country. I mean, let's take the touchiest of those subjects right now on the trans issue. I think that when a kid says that I'm born into the wrong body, that my gender doesn't match my biological sex, more often than not, that is a case of a mental health disorder. That doesn't mean you disrespect that person. It means they're crying out for help. I met with two young women who regret the decisions they made, going through double mastectomies, one a hysterectomy, chemical intervention, now trying to teach kids across the country that when you're struggling inside, going through adolescence, yes, that involves some struggle. We live in a cultural moment today where adults are affirming that confusion rather than actually treating them compassionately. That's cruelty.
You ever talk to parents that have a kid who's going through this?
I have, actually. Yeah, and I think
it's a my point
it's
is
a difficult place to be. I acknowledge
right.
that. But what we need to do on both sides here is act with compassion, not really what makes us feel good about ourselves. And I think that's my main issue across our response to transgenderism and to climate. It's solving the actual underlying issues rather than what allows you to signal your virtue.
Exactly. Bro, perfectly how I would imagine I would respond to that question, because this is too long. Like, people think being empathetic, being compassionate is not hurting someone's feelings. To me, it's solving that person's problem. And if solving that person's problem means, hey, you got to go through some pain in the short term, but you'll be better off in the long term, that's the solution I would pick. Is gender reassignment surgery a shortcut, or it actually solves the long-term problem that they're facing? In my view, it's not. There's studies out there, even after gender reaffirming surgery, people, they still have a high risk of suicide ideation. So you didn't really, what you did didn't really address the issue. All you did was treat the symptom, but the root cause is still there. And I'm a person that wants to address the root cause. And Chuck Todd tried to say, oh, there's a lot of studies. There's science out there that says it could be a spectrum, but he doesn't clarify how that's the case. Right? Vivek can explain why he believes it's binary. Hey, it's X, 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 Y, man, female. This is how I categorize them because of these factors, this evidence that I have. He want to bring up, like I said, he was appealing to authority. Oh, there's scientists, people. Oh, how the country agree with that? I'm like, okay, but where's your studies that shows that? All it seems like is you're not making this up, but you're assuming all this stuff. You assume that half the country agrees or disagrees on these topics. You assume these topics are controversial. I mean, we got Bud Light getting boycotted over this stuff. Women are like across. There's no one in my mind, I think, you can definitively say that half these issues people agree or disagree on. Systematic racism may be the closest to half the country disagreeing or agreeing on that issue, that if it exists or not. And that's mainly because of what Vivek pointed out in the video, is that we've been culturally conditioned to view the problem in a particular way, and we believe that's the only way to solve the problems, when there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, is what Vivek's arguing. But hey, I found that it was an interesting conversation, and I liked the way Vivek articulated against what Chuck Todd was trying to do, because Chuck Todd was trying to frame this as, oh, this is just the right thing to do. You have to take compassionate, and then he phrased it. He said, hey, is that really compassion? To me, that's not compassion. That you letting someone live in a delusion where it's heading down to a roadblock. Oh, I'll let you cut up yourself. I'll give you double mastectomy. Instead of actually confronting the root cause of the problems, you just want to patch it up and get them through. That may work in the short term, but in the long term, eventually they'll succumb to that, and they'll be like, yo, I'm gonna take my life because in reality, I'm still not a woman. I'm still not a man. And this is the kind of setup I think a lot of people in their compassion is doing, is that their compassion is not actually for the person, but it's for themselves, because they don't want to go through the tough job of actually telling the person, hey, and you're not a man, you're not a woman. In reality, you can never be that. So accept what you are, accept who you are, and move forward. That's the harder thing to do, because, it's going to cause emotional distress on the other person, but that's what they need. When someone breaks their leg, right? You don't prescribe them, oh, here's a painkiller, you won't feel anything, but the leg is still broken. The person is going to make the damage worse. And I think this is what we're doing with the transgender movement. This is what I think we're doing with this so-called trying to fix racial disparities by being racist, or reverse discrimination, whatever terms these wokies want to use nowadays. I lost count. You're exacerbating the problem, in my view. It's not a long-term solution. But hey, I digress. Let's get into this final clip for this video. I don't want this video to be too long. And Vivek's gonna just succinctly kind of articulate or in a concise way tackle the core issue of this, is that these treatments that they're espousing creates more suffering. Let's take a look.
If a parent is dealing with a child that has that may have these issues, trust me, the last thing they want to do is consider something like this. But if that is what they think could help their child pursue happiness, or they're not to kill themselves, why take away that option? Again, why shouldn't it be up to the parent?
So part of why parents now suddenly feel that way, let's ask ourselves that, Chuck, because we've created a culture that teaches parents that they're being bigoted or that they're bad people if they don't actually take those steps. So part of what I think is, listen, gender dysphoria, for the rare few people who have suffered it, is a condition of suffering. My question is, why on earth are we going out of our way to create even more of it? And there's no doubt that the cultural movement in this country, even education, is creating more gender dysphoria. If it's a condition of suffering, let's not create more of it. That's what we're doing.
I agree 100% with that, because I believe CRT is in that formation as well. Identity politics are in that category as well, as that we're creating more suffering. I made this claim before, and I can back it up, that when you introduce kids to materials, when you introduce CRT materials to children, their self-esteem is negatively impacted, right? Their academic performance declines after being exposed to CRT concepts. Why is that? Because you're teaching them a concept of learned helplessness. Oh, no matter what I do, I can't get over the fact that I'm black. That means there's no chance for me. Black kids don't do good in math. So there's no point in trying to learn math, because I'll never be as good as the white kids because of my skin color, right? It's this learned helplessness that CRT teaches black people or minority groups as a whole. Oh, you're a Hispanic. They force you're academically held back because everything's in English, and the only way you can succeed in this country is we have to translate everything for you in Spanish. That may help in the short term, but in the long term, you stifle, you restrict that person to a geographical location. And I've seen this a lot. I'm born and raised in Miami. I've seen this a lot. A lot of immigrants, they come here, they don't know how to speak English, and then they come to me, black as hell, come and ask me, oh, do you speak Spanish? I'm like, no, I don't. ¿Es español? No, I don't speak Spanish. I'm sorry. And they struggle to go through go around certain parts of Miami because everything else is in English. You don't think that hampers their economic opportunities? Because a lot of the high paying jobs in this country are in its native tongue, English. So if you don't know English, you're economically handicapping yourself. And then you're going to then they do policies like this where they over cater to one group. Because when my parents immigrated from Haiti, they had to learn English. And there's a lot of my dad lives in Washington. A lot of Hispanic people who immigrate here, they don't want to move to other parts of the country because they realize, hey, I'm gonna stay where I know people speak Spanish. Hialeah Gardens, Little Havana, downtown Miami sometimes, Miami Beach, to certain areas if they know the locals around. You handicap these people to stay in one geographical location, and you hamper their economic opportunities. And then these progressives gonna come out and say, "Oh, look how racist this country is. They don't want their institutions more accessible to other people." No, to me, as a nationalist, like if I'm taking a nationalist perspective on this, right? As a nation, America is a sovereign country, and as a sovereign country, you have to adapt to their environment, not make their environment change for you. That's a very self-centered way of doing things, and in the long term, it hurts people. Because if I go to China and I want to be economically successful in China, I have to learn Chinese or Mandarin. Sorry if I mispronounced that. I have to learn Mandarin, because if I don't, I'm limiting my own opportunities. So it's not a race thing; it's a behavior thing. Certain behaviors reward you more than others. And in my view, if a group of communities do a certain behavior and it sets them up for a negative outcome, are we surprised that there's disparities? And this is the heart of the problem that I think Vivek highlights very well, is that a lot of these policies are creating the very suffering that they claim they're trying to fix. All you have to do is take a look at war on poverty. Lyndon B. Johnson's war on poverty. Single motherhood was at 25%. After war on poverty, we had 75%. And the rate of poverty is still at the same level than when before war of poverty. So what it didn't do anything. All it did was make people comfortable in poverty. But hey, I've rambled a little bit too long. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think Vivek is a good pick? I really like him a lot, and I want to hear your thoughts about him. I want to hear your thoughts about how you took the video. Do you find it insightful, educational? I want to hear it from you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.